Oh, it's an early one. Good morning. Bam, we're live. Mikey, what's up? Christine, what's up? Michael. No, not Michael. Michelle. I know a Michael Shank, not a Michelle Shanks. Good morning, guys. Congress has 535 voting members. 100 of them are senators, 435 are representatives. And then the Vice President of the United States, as President of the Senate, has one vote in case there's a tie. What do I know? That's just straight off of Wiki. I think the way it works is if we want to get something passed, it has to go through the House of Representatives, then to the Senate. And then if both houses of Congress vote on something and agree on it, it becomes, what do they call it? Does it become a law, an act? I don't even know what the word is that they call it. But as I've dug more and more into Eli Crane, our guest this morning, man, what a crazy journey it is. Subcommittees, committees. It is a wild ride. Eli Crane is one of the 435 members of the United States House of Representatives. He's out of Arizona. He's been on the show before. Served in the military as a SEAL. I want to say, I looked this up. I want to say deployed how many times? 5 times. He started 1 week after the September 11th attacks. He dropped out of college and joined the United States Navy. He was in the Navy from 2001 to 2014. This is his wiki page. Who knows if it's even true? 3 of the 5 deployments were with the U.S. Navy SEALs. And when I say who knows if it's even true, there was some shit in there that's just crazy that they write about him. Wiki calls him a conspiracy theorist because he had concerns about the 2020 election. It's crazy. It's crazy. I wonder if Wiki calls the guys who didn't believe in the Hunter Biden laptop. I wonder if they call those guys conspiracy theorists. I bet they don't. And I wonder if they call all the people who thought that the Russian dossier was real, if they call those guys conspiracy theorists. It's ridiculous. Tyler Watkins, what's up, dude? Any drones in Albany? There will be. There will be drones in Albany. They seem to be popping up everywhere. Here we go. We're seconds away. Good morning, dude.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, great to have you back on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, are you in DC?
I am.
Okay, you're looking, because it's 6 a.m. here on the West Coast, and you look really good for 6 a.m.
Yeah, I'm in. I got 2 hours on you guys, so.
I know you have a busy day, Eli, and I know you've been on the show before. And I was sharing a little bit about you with the live listeners. You know, your background, serving in the U.S. military, and now you're a sitting congressman in the House of Representatives for the state of Arizona.
Yep.
So that background's done.
On this. Yeah, there's like a alarm going off when he's getting emails or whatever.
Okay, yeah, let me quit out of this.
Tell Zach I said hi and thank you. He's great.
Yeah, I will. Thank you, man. How's everything going?
He's awesome. So good. So good. Life's good. No drones in California. Hey, first of all, just no bullshit, man. You are a breath of fresh air for those of us who are keeping speed on what's going on in the United States, and your sincerity and your authenticity and your vigor and your dedication and kind of like your ability not to pick up the shiny objects. I know you're in your second term and you just won, but you give us you really do. I hate to use this word, give us hope that there's someone there with actual eyes on the kids in the piggy bank.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. It means a lot.
Okay, I'm gonna dig in. I'm gonna dig in right away with the drones, and then I got some other questions. When COVID was happening, and Rochelle Walensky, the head of the CDC, would come on CNN, she would say shit like, I mean, she would just blatantly let you know that she had no idea what was going on accident. It would slip through her mouth on accident. She'd be like, "Well, we hope the vaccine doesn't allow transmission, or we hope it offers protection." And at one point, she even said she gets her news from CNN, her information from CNN. This is the head of the CDC, and you're like, "Boy, this is unsettling." Is it like that with the drones too, that just the social media is this huge brainchild? You know, you have drone experts coming on, you have the people who are saying it's a nuke. Some people are saying it's the size of cars. Is it like that with the drone information too, or does the government actually have a handle on this one?
Well, if they do have a handle on it, they're not divulging that to us. I can tell you, we had hearings up here last week. We had unclassified hearings, and then we even went down to the SCIF and had a classified hearing. And in both cases, the origin of the drones and the intent of the drones was withheld from us. So it's one of two things: they're either lying to us, which that happens pretty regularly up here, or they don't know what's going on. And unfortunately, they can lie to us because we're either in on, we're either so corrupt up here, or we lack the backbone to hold anybody accountable. And so it kind of makes sense, right? When you have little kids, if you never hold them accountable, when they lie or they steal or they do something they're not supposed to, obviously the behavior is going to continue. It's the same thing up here. If nobody ever gets held accountable, then these agencies, they feel no reason to give you the truth, and they gaslight you, and they try and stall every effort that you launch into oversight and transparency.
I saw you questioning Mr. Wheeler. When you question people like that, what is that called? Like, what is that session called? Does that have a name?
Yeah, that was the Homeland Security Committee. There's a bunch of committees up here in Washington. I'm on the Homeland Security Committee, I'm on the Small Business Committee, and I'm on Veterans Affairs. This next Congress, I just found out yesterday, I'm going to be on Oversight, which is one of the big hearings that gets to look into, basically every government agency. So I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, those are called committee hearings.
And are those real, or are those theatrics? You know how like TSA is like security theater?
Yeah.
Are those real, like in the sense that something could actually come out there, or is that all just theater for the American public?
Well, I think it's both. I mean, there's definitely an amount of theater that takes place in there, but you put these guys under oath in many cases the moment they walk in, and so if you perjure yourself before Congress, something could happen. But it goes back to what I was talking about a second ago, and if we don't have the backbone, to hold anybody accountable, then it really doesn't matter.
The when you get information about so are you like us when you're getting information about the drones, social media and the experts popping up just on Instagram or on TikTok or wherever, or is that where most of the politicians are getting their information also?
Well, I don't think so. I think that it's a combination. I think every member has probably their own, procedures, but we get our information through news like everybody else. We obviously have a lot of connections up here in Washington that are constantly, sharing information with one another, other members, staff, etc. And then also, like I said, you'll have, committees of jurisdiction, and you can get information through the committees, and sometimes you'll get information in a classified setting as well. So, it's just a broad range of resources that help inform us on what's going on.
When you're done interviewing this guy, Mr. Wheeler from the FBI, and it closes, do you guys walk into the hallway and are you like, "Hey, dude, what the fuck? When are you guys going to tell us?" Like, are there conversations that are like that transparent, like afterwards?
Sometimes things like that happen. definitely didn't happen last week in this case. I actually had a meeting I had to get to after that exchange there between myself and Mr. Wheeler. I think one of the most revealing things about that exchange was just finding out how little the FBI spends on counter drone technology, and that's where I was going with my questioning of him and some of the other government officials who are tasked with protecting the American people. Because if you watch what's going on in the world right now, with Ukraine and Russia, for instance, right? Drone warfare is exploding. The technology is exploding. The Chinese put a lot into the manufacturing of, military drones and, using them, for the purposes of warfare. And, it's you can go watch a lot of this stuff online, but it's actually, pretty terrifying, just how the, drone technology has expanded, how deadly it's become. And so, my concern is that at some point that's going to spill into the U.S. and it's going to, spill all over the globe. And my question to these guys is, well, if you spend, I think it was like a $12 billion budget, if you spend $500,000 of your $12 billion budget on anti-drone warfare, how effective do you think, your anti-drone warfare or ability to stop drone attacks is going to be? Obviously not big at all, obviously not good at all. And we have big events coming up here. Obviously we've got the inauguration on January 20th, swearing President Trump back in. And that's not just a big event because the president's there, but you're going to have all of Congress. You're going to have, you're going to have the Senate there. You're going to have world leaders from all over the world there. And when warfare is changing so rapidly and you're not keeping up with the, the ability to defend against it, which is my concern, that leaves you extremely vulnerable and open for attack. And that's not the only big event we have. We have the Super Bowl coming up. We have the college playoffs coming up. We have the World Cup coming up. Anywhere this is something, that goes back to my time in the service, to catch or kill a predator, you have to think like one. And you've got to do the same thing when it comes to some of these individuals who would love to inflict mass casualty harm on innocent Americans. You have to basically think like somebody who would want to harm them. And I do the same thing in my job now. If I was a terrorist and I wanted to inflict as much harm on innocent Americans as possible, how would I do it? And I would definitely be looking at drones, the use of drones, something that, kept me from having to be in close proximity to the actual events, which would aid me in my escape or my evacuation route so that I didn't get caught, but could allow me to do a lot of harm to, innocent civilians. And so, that's my concern. I feel like these guys are always behind the curve. And that's something that is very common with government bureaucracies. They don't have to be efficient because they're spending other people's money. And they also have a bunch of burdensome regulation that prevent them from getting rid of employees that, aren't really go-getters, don't think outside the box, aren't movers and shakers, aren't problem solvers, but they're just there for the paycheck. And so that's my big concern when I look at the whole drone situation right now.
I mean, we've all seen the footage of the Chinese can put 10,000 drones up. And I own 5 drones. None of them are registered because you just go to the store, you buy it, you connect it to your phone, you start playing with your kids. All my drones have facial recognition. It would be so easy to attach a grenade to 10,000 drones, tell them, hey, as soon as you lock eyes with someone, detonate, push the button, and then they go. I mean,
Right.
on the most primitive level, right? You don't care who you kill. You're just there's got to be someone who can do that. I mean, you've seen the drones, right? The 10,000 that go up in the air and make a picture of a unicorn like flying.
Yeah, I have. And, on that note, it's interesting too, because obviously up here in Congress, we fund the Department of Defense. And, unfortunately, when we fund the Department of Defense, I also fear, that, the Department of Defense, often because of its connections to the military industrial complex, is often more likely to fund like a, you know, multi, a $1 billion fighter that's going to be obsolete in, in a couple years, if not now, when you look at how rapidly, warfare is changing. And, because, a lot of these defense manufacturers, they're very smart. What they'll do is they'll have like a project, like an aircraft. And what they'll do is they'll have manufacturing for that aircraft or that military vehicle, and they'll strategically place the manufacturing to where they have manufacturing going on in, like, a majority of the states in the country. And so representatives are incentivized to keep that project going so that they can go home and tell their constituents, hey, I made sure that that plant stayed open. I voted for the NDAA, or, the, defense appropriations bill, or whatever it is. And so, there's stuff like that going on up here all the time, where the focus isn't necessarily in making sure our military is lethal and effective as possible, and mitigating the threats of the future, and so you see stuff like that happen all the time up here, and it's kind of alarming.
And you talk about this a lot on the Sean Ryan podcast, which you are absolutely amazing. What a great podcast. As soon as people get in office, their priority is to get reelected as opposed to do their job.
Absolutely. And, it's kind of sad to me, honestly. Like, I get it. I feel blessed to be here. I feel blessed to serve my country again, but it's just so sad because there's so much corruption and foolishness and arrogance up here. And you just see it, especially in a place like the House of Representatives, where our election cycles are every 2 years. Half the time of a member for many of these folks is spent on reelection, right? Now, in the Senate, it's different. They have 6-year terms. So I would say it's not, the same turnover for them. And, they definitely have a different election cycle. But I can't speak for anybody else. I don't know about your audience and how they feel about things, but I believe that, most people don't trust the federal government, and probably for a very good reason. And, this place is 100% broken. We spend about, I think it's $1 trillion every 100 days up here, or I should say we borrow another $1 trillion every 100 days up here, money we don't have. And we spend it on all sorts of, and we're getting ready to do it right now. Just this week, we're going to fund the government again, before we leave for the holidays. And it'll be like a 1,500-page bill, and it'll be in, one vote up or down on the entire thing. And it's going to be loaded with all sorts of nonsense. And it's just sad how this place works, and how the focus for so many people isn't like changing or fixing the broken system, but, getting reelected. And it's always that, that internal dialogue that I think many members have with themselves. Like, well, if I want to make a difference, I have to stay up here. And if I want to stay up here, I've got to get reelected. And if I want to get reelected, I've got to make all these phone calls so that I can raise the money, so that, when it comes time to, like, counter the attack messages that are coming at me in commercials and on digital ads and mailer ads, I have the war chest to do it. And so I get all that, but it's just sad because I feel like we're losing our country. I think I told you that when I came on your podcast the first time. It was the only reason I ran in the first place. And it's one of the reasons I've been willing to make very big moves up here, because I think when when you get in such a dire spot, you know, whether you're in your whether it's in your family, your business, or even in a nation, you have to be willing to say, hey, what we're doing is not working. We've got to make some pretty radical changes if we're going to, you know, turn this thing around. And so, you know, and in doing that, you know, I knew that my political career could be very short-lived, but that was a price I was willing to pay, because I'm not here to be a part of the club. I'm not here to, you know, be here for a long time. I really do think this country's in trouble, and you know, the way I see it right now, there's no appetite up here to quit spending money we don't have, or be as reckless as possible. The one little bright piece of hope I see is this Dodge group with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, watching the members pander to these guys because they think they're like celebrities and they want to get a selfie taken with them. But it's funny because you'll see them. We had a meeting with those guys a couple weeks ago. They came into DC. You should have seen all these guys, all these members that vote for every crappy spending bill that, you know, comes up here in Washington, DC, go to the mic and talk to Vivek and Elon about where we need to cut, even though they won't cut anything. They vote for everything. And it was just kind of funny to watch that interaction. And so, you know, I'm hoping that Elon, being the richest man in the world, who has said that he's willing to play in primaries, you know, if people try and obstruct the agenda that the American people just voted in favor for this last November, I'm hoping that he will play in primaries, and I'm hoping he'll use his massive communication platform to put people on blast, you know, who, you know, continually gaslight the American people and, you know, misrepresent, you know, what they're about up here. And, you know, the sad thing is, Severin, it's a two-part deal. You know, it's like, yeah, politicians are part of the problem, but the bigger part of the problem really is the American people that continually send these people back here because they don't pay enough attention, so they're easy to gaslight. Like, if you don't pay attention to what's going on, you know, I can come back to my district, or a politician can come back to their district and just completely gaslight you about, you know, tell you everything that you want to hear, but you don't know any better because you don't pay attention to what's going on. And so we'll never change this country until the American people start paying attention to what is actually going on up here. And, you know, we'll see if that day ever comes.
I'm going to circle back to that, and I want to talk to you about some crazy shit I heard Bernie Sanders say. But first, I want to ask you, from what I can see from the algorithm that's fed to me, the predominant theory is that these drones are U.S. drones, and they're sniffing the ground. That's the term the news is using, the mainstream media, to look for something. And the predominant theory is that they're looking for radiation contamination or a nuke that may have escaped from the Cold War. Is that? Can you confirm any of that theory?
I honestly, I can't. You know, I told you last week we had, you know, top members of the FBI and other organizations in multiple hearings, and we were asking the same questions, and we got no answers. I try to be pretty transparent and honest with people. I'm not going to gaslight you when I don't, you know, have an answer. You know, I did see some reports that some radioactive material in New Jersey earlier this month, you know, arrived at its destination in pretty bad shape and damaged and missing, and that could have something to do with it, but I can't confirm, you know, or deny reports that I'm not aware of. So.
Going back to people not understanding the corruption, when I hear Bernie Sanders saying stuff like he wants to go after Coca-Cola and he wants to tax them more, or he's like complaining about how much money they make, my immediate thought was, dude, you're totally missing the point. And this is going back to what you were saying. Do not attack the free markets. Let Coca-Cola make as much money as they want. What we need is them not interfering with the CDC. We need them not interfering with the FDA. We need them not interfering with the EPA. And if that means taking down those organizations, the FDA, the CDC, then we need to do that. Is that where you're like, hey, these systems can't be like, they want to still work within the system. And it's like, you don't understand. This is a system that does bad things in my eyes. It's not, and then the second you tax Coca-Cola, then all of a sudden the government's in business with them.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the federal government. I'm a big fan of a limited government. I think that's what our founders wanted. I think it was one of the reasons you had so much growth and prosperity and freedom here within the United States for so long. So I'm generally not a fan of the federal government putting its heavy hand on, any corporation. And I do also have, one of the things that does give me hope is some of the cabinet picks that the president has picked, like Bobby Kennedy Jr. I think that, he's very well informed, with many, when it comes to many of the organizations that you just brought up and some of the overhauling that they need. And so it's going to be an interesting couple of years just to see, if we can reform some of these major institutions that, have kind of gone off the rail and, become pretty corrupted. And so I'm interested to see, what happens. I'm not going to hold my breath because I know how this town works and how this town, we call it the swamp or the establishment or the uniparty. Its main job is to, protect the establishment and to block and stop and destroy anything that tries to get in its way. And, I've been on the receiving end of that. And I know many others who have tried to come up here and change this town have as well. And so, like I said, I'm not going to hold my breath, but, I do see some of the cabinet picks and leadership picks that the incoming president has made. They're absolutely reformers and people who understand, where the bodies are buried, how the corrupt system works, and, have pledged a willingness to reform many of the organizations. And so, I'm going to do everything I can to help them, carry out that agenda and hopefully accomplish some of the reform that I think would make the lives of the American people better and safer.
And when you say the swamp, you're referring to the fact that you were elected into office, and yet people who weren't elected into office have all the information about what's going on with the drones in Jersey, and they're not sharing it. That's the swamp, right? Is that the definition of the swamp?
Well, it's part of it, right? That's part of it, right? You got these bureaucracies up here, and Congress, in many ways, has ceded a lot of its authority to a lot of these bureaucracies up here that aren't elected officials. That's part of it. But another part of the swamp, or the establishment that we call it, is also you've got, a ton of lobbying groups up here, a bunch of special interest groups up here. They don't really care about, they're I shouldn't say they don't care, but their priority isn't whether or not, the U.S. dollar is destroyed because we continue to print so much money that we don't even have, or, and some of them on the defense side, they're not really as interested in whether or not, we start another world war and, Americans have to send, their treasure and their kids to another foreign battlefield that lasts another 20 years. And then they come back after a couple decades, and 20 of them a day are committing suicide because of the effects of going to war for that long. But those aren't their priorities, right? Their priorities are making money. Their priorities are influence, right? And so the swamp is a lot of things. It's also Republicans and Democrats constantly working together. Anytime, right? There's going to be I talked about a big spending bill up here in Washington, D.C. before we all go home for Christmas, right? It's going to be like a 1,500-page bill. It's going to fund a lot of the government. And you're going to see Democrats and Republicans lock arms. They're going to get some of their priorities. We're going to get some of their priorities. There will be no cuts to spending. We're not going to quit spending your money that we don't have. but it's going to be, they're going to come together to make a deal to get enough of their priorities across the finish line so that the government doesn't shut down and they can go home and, tell their constituents, hey, I got this for you, I got that for you, without anybody addressing the elephant in the room. And that's the fact that, we have a massive spending problem. It's so out of control. We're $36 trillion in debt, and that's one of the biggest, if not the biggest driver of the inflation that the people that are watching this podcast right now see when they go to the grocery store or the gas pump, right? That's why your dollar doesn't go as far anymore, because we keep printing more money that we don't have, and your dollar gets weaker and weaker.
I want to show you a clip from the up you had on during Trump's campaign. By the way, this is really cool. By the way, that he believes in you and he's brought you in close. Basically, what I see is I see a leader in Trump who's giving hope to those people who want to keep it real and who want to tell the truth. And then there's that kind of that swamp in the middle. I hope I'm seeing that picture right. Obviously, he's not afraid of you and your realness. But I'm going to play you this clip, and then I want to ask you a question about this. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to hear this. Here we go.
You guys, because it's not enough to just elect fighters. I think one of the reasons we're in this spot as a country is because we've allowed God to be pushed out of everything. This is 2 Chronicles 7:14, and it says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear them from heaven, I will forgive their sin, and I will heal their land. God,
So I've gone through some sort of intellectual development in the last, 10 years. I am not a believer. I have not been approached to be saved by Jesus. I have not been approached to be saved. I'm not a Christian, but I cannot think of a greater group of people that I would rather lock arms with. I want my neighbors to be good Christians. I find incredible value in the in Christians all around me, right? What they believe in, their values, their morals, they're perfectly aligned with mine. I'm like, wow, so, when you're a kid, you spend your whole, 20 years trying to tell everyone God's not real. And then something happened to me. I'm like, whoa, why am I doing that? Right. These are good people with good values and good morals that I want my sons to marry. Right.
Yeah.
Is there any way, that's the thing. It's not like people are, there's Christians, and then there's this other group of people, and this other group of people like hates Christians. Like when you invoke God, they hate you. Is there any way we could get them to make the intellectual journey that I made, where it's like, yo, dude, stop spending your time trying to prove to them that their God's not real. Maybe they know something we don't know, but they have immense value to society because of their morals and their values.
No, it's interesting that you bring that up. I think this podcast took a pretty cool turn, and I'm glad you brought that up. I talk pretty freely and openly about my faith because I want to be transparent, but at the same time, I want the big things in life to be the big things, and it's the main reason, honestly, I got into this whole thing. I felt like this is where, God called me to be. I don't remember if, you remember this from the first time I was on your show, but I have two daughters. I have a 17-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old daughter. So this is not a good time for me to be spending 3 weeks of my life every month in Washington, D.C. while they're growing up. But I'm here because I felt like God called me to be here. And, it's interesting because in that clip, I do find it interesting that this country has a Judeo-Christian founding. I mean, you can see it everywhere if you understand. If you've ever read the Bible, you understand the text. You understand even many of our laws. In our judicial system. If you go in and you look at a lot of the biblical law. It's why a lot of people say we have a Judeo-Christian founding, because so much of our country is based on, the Judeo faith, Judaism, and also the Christian faith. But It's interesting because I do believe that's a big reason why this country is in such bad shape, because we have allowed God to be pushed out of everything. And we could go through that. We could go through that and we could talk about that. That could be a podcast of its own. But regardless of what you believe or anybody on your show believes, I love the fact that we live in a country where you can believe whatever you want. And I fought for your right to believe or say anything you want. That's what real freedom is. But I am going to tell you what I think is the truth, knowing that it's not popular to talk. It's not popular to talk about your faith. That's honestly, in this day and age of cancel culture, it's one of the quickest ways for you to get canceled, is for you to talk about your faith, especially in a culture that you brought up, often really hates Christianity. It hates faith. And I'm honored to be up here. Sometimes I don't even know why God has me here, Severn, but I'm honored to be here, man. And I'm going to keep telling people about what I think is real and what I think is true. And I know that that's going to come with a lot of criticism. In some cases, it's going to come with some hatred. But that's something that, Jesus himself in the Bible said. He said, they will hate you because they hated me first. And what happened to Jesus? He was killed. He was crucified, for the things that he said and, for what he believed. And so as a follower of Jesus, I understand that, I will be hated because of my faith, and especially because I'm bold and I talk about it. I talk about it openly, and, it's not something that I honestly like. Like I love people. I love people that, I don't even agree with, but so it's not always easy for me, the personal side of me, to talk about things that I know will cause criticism or, fractures. But
it's defensiveness. It's like, hey, it's defensiveness. It's so immature intellectually, right? Like
Right.
if one of your core elements is to treat other people's how you would like to be treated, great. Who can argue with that? But the second you ascribe it to the Bible, people get crazy defensive. And I just wish that so many people could make that intellectual hurdle. Like, hey, dude, it doesn't infringe on you. It's actually a huge benefit to you. This whole thing where they say God gives you free will. That's why these guys are going to fight war, so that you can maintain your free will. You can say what you want.
No, absolutely, man. And I just appreciate, you having a show, where you'll actually bring stuff up and talk about that. And I think that's what honestly, I think it's one of the reasons that you see alternative media platforms like yours, guys like Joe Rogan, my friend Sean Ryan, I think that's why they're exploding, because I think people have seen the mainstream media stifle free speech for so long and free expression so long that people are hungry for it. I think there's a part of each and every one of us that just, craves, freedom and free expression, free speech, free ideas. And they're not able to get that as much on the mainstream media anymore, whether it's in the news or even programming. Like there's this agenda, and if you don't fit within that agenda, you're either blocked out or you're canceled. You hear people coming out of Hollywood talk about that all the time. Like there's a lot of people that, for instance, that, were supportive of President Trump that couldn't openly be supportive of President Trump, or they were afraid that they'd lose their job or their career. I never thought, I'm only 44 years old, but I never thought, I'd grow up in a country where it got to that point that, if you promoted conservative values, or if you spoke freely and openly about your faith, that, you might lose your career. I mean, it's just wild to me, some of the things that are going on. It's one of the reasons why I feel like, I was drawn to this spot and called to this spot, to try and, fight for some of these things that I believe in so dearly.
I had a friend visit me from North Carolina, and on the flight here, he made the commitment to wear a MAGA hat, the Trump hat, the entire way through the airport, right?
Yeah.
And he said it was all people looking, and then people coming up and whispering to him, "I wish I had the balls to do that." And he got here, and he made it, and he got on the podcast, and he made a joke. Hey, I totally know what it's like to be gay or something like that. And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Wearing a Trump hat across the country is like coming out."
Yeah.
He's like, and I know it's all between my ears, and I know it's personal accountability and responsibility, but there is this thought that if you wore a Trump hat in California where I'm residing, that someone might fight you, someone might hit you, someone might punch you, someone might talk shit to your kids, someone might key your car. It is a crazy time. And then those of us, it's also interesting that those of us, when Trump won, there's a huge group of us who feel relieved, right? Like we feel free. So like
Yep.
my YouTube station was suspended for a week because I said during COVID that exercise and good nutrition is the greatest way to hedge against all sicknesses. And
Yep.
that was against WHO guidelines. And I got reported for it, and they took my station down for a week. And so I feel like everyone would agree with me on both sides, but they haven't pushed up against it. Do you know who Anna Kasparian is from the Young Turks, that reporter?
I don't. I've heard of the Young Turks, but I don't know who that reporter is.
Crazy liberal, socialist, communist propaganda arm. The lady on that show was in Los Angeles. She went to she was walking her dog. Her dog dropped a deuce. She bent over to pick the dog's deuce up, and a homeless guy came up behind her and started dry humping her. Instantaneously, she became a conservative overnight.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, guys. Like, but it's almost like they won't wake up unless it put, you know what I mean?
Unless it hits close to home. Yeah.
Yes. My friends who live in Berkeley, who kids are in the Berkeley Unified School District, they won't speak up until all of a sudden they call me and they're like, "Oh my God, you're right." I'm like, "What?" They're like, "My kid's 11 years old, and today they talked to him about what his gender identity is." I'm like,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of people, there's a pretty popular, radio host, Dan Bongino. He talks about it all the time. He talks about, being a cop in New York City before he became a part of the Secret Service, and he watched New York City go from one of the most violent cities in the world, to a pretty safe place under the direction of some new leadership. But he recounts, watching that situation just spiral down, and he talks about it even, in comparisons today, and he'll say, "I guess it just hasn't got that bad yet. It just hasn't got that bad yet." Many of us are waiting for the American people to wake up and, recognize that some of the, policies, and talking points that sound so good, coming out of people's mouths and on paper, where they actually lead to, in history and in reality. And it's interesting to see. I think in many ways it got to a point in this country, whether you were talking about illegal immigration, being out of control in this country, censorship, whatever the issue was for you, it got so bad for enough people that enough people finally said, "Yeah, that's enough. We want a course correction here."
In the course correction, do you agree that it's not to fix what's there, it's to dismantle what's there? I know, I don't know if you hang out with a lot of liberals, but I live in California, and I'll say stuff like, "Hey, we need to completely eliminate the Department of Education," and they roll their eyes and they panic. And I understand that panic because I used to be that guy too. But
Yeah.
it's like, yo, just go online and look and do 5 minutes of research and see the Department of Education was formed in 1979, and test scores were at a peak then and went straight down after it was formed. There's nothing to worry about. Nothing's going to get worse than it already is.
Right. Because they hear you say that and they think immediately that, that's because you don't care about education, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's the exact opposite.
They think that education has to come from some department in in Washington, D.C. And the sad thing is that if you were to get rid of that department, and I fully support that, those dollars then would go to the states, and they would have more local parental control over how they were spent. And, I think it would have the effect that the opposite effect of what you were just talking about. I think that you would start to see test scores start to go back up. I think that you would start to see a lot of these, woke ideologies taken out of education. And hey, if you want to teach your kids those woke ideologies on your own time, that's
Yes,
fine.
sir.
I'm all for you being able to teach your kids what you want.
Right.
I wouldn't recommend it, but I support the freedom that you have in that. I just don't want it to become, national curriculum. I want our curriculum to be focused on what education should be focused on: math, science, history, chemistry, all of those things, so that our kids can go out and compete in what's become a global market, where they're competing against kids coming from countries that don't have all these distractions that they have to deal with. They're focused solely on, these core curriculum education, subjects that are going to propel them and help them in this, compete in a global workforce. And that's what I want to see us get back to. And I know from being up here, how often the good idea fairy flies around up here. And, if you have the right influence, you've been up here, an appropriate amount of time. If you've kissed the ring enough that you can get your little line item in, an appropriations bill, and then it becomes law, and then every kid in the country has to, adhere to it. And so, yeah, I'd love to see that department go away. I'd love to see, several of them go away.
For those people listening, I'd like to let you know, all you have to do is spend 10 minutes looking at what the United States Department of Education does, and all they have no rule or authority over the states and what the states can teach. But what they do is they have this huge war chest of money, and then lobbyists control the money. And so any lobbyist who wants to force things on the state can tell the Department of Education, hey, give California $1 billion of this $86 billion budget if they put in their curriculum that you can be any gender you want. And so all they're doing is manipulating. It's basically mind control from the federal government interfering with the state's education. It's wild. It's basically just an open door for lobbyists to get their agenda put through. It's really, it doesn't take long to see that. Just 10 minutes of research on the internet, how they're spending their money. Eli has taught me a ton from watching his Sean Ryan episode. Yeah, great episode. How are you on time?
How are we on time?
I know I'm way over my time.
Yeah, I can probably do like 10 or 15 more minutes.
Okay, and if you need to go, just let me know.
No problem.
Cool. Okay. Eli just had an incident here in Madison, Wisconsin. What is the solution for this? Oh, she's talking. Yesterday there was a school shooting in Madison. I have not looked into that at all.
Yeah, I haven't looked into the specifics. I have looked into the school shooting issue, for quite some time. And so, I can talk about, my thoughts on how to prevent, school shootings. It's interesting because a lot of schools are really soft targets, what we would call soft targets, individuals, coming from my former line of work. And that's basically means they're extremely vulnerable, right? A lot of schools don't even have, security. A lot of schools don't even have a retired police officer. I remember I got out of the Navy in 2014. I moved my family to Arizona, and I remember, we put our kids in a school, and I was walking around, kind of doing the same thing that I talked to you about earlier on in the podcast, and you put yourself in that mindset. If I was going to come into this school and do as much harm as possible, how would I do it? What would stop me? And I came to the quick assessment that this was a very soft target, and that if anybody had the inclination to come into my kid's school, with a weapon, they could do a ton of damage and carnage before anybody, that could stop them got there. And so I went and I talked to the principal about it. Actually, the headmaster at the time, I talked to him about it. And I even started going around talking to other parents once I found out, one of the issues was funding for, an off-duty police officer or a full-time, security officer. And so I started talking to parents, hey, started telling them about my concern, told them about my experience and why these kids were, in danger. And, many of the parents and myself, we would have, I think, easily been able to come up with the money to cover the salary of said, security officer. And within 6 months, the school had, handled the situation and had a full-time security, officer there at the school. And that's not, the thing that people, whether you're talking about a border or a school, security, has always been and always will be overlapping deterrence. It's not one thing, right? It's never one thing, whether you're at a military base in Fallujah, Iraq, or whether you're at a kid's school, it's always overlapping deterrence. One of the things that you need, obviously, is a wall, right? So you can kind of stop what comes into your building, right?
Have a filter. Hey, here's the point of entry.
It's so, it's so common, and a lot of people, especially when it comes to the border, say that walls don't work, but they're one piece of a security solution, right? And then you need a security guard, you need surveillance equipment, right? You need to have relationships with local law enforcement. It also helps for these schools and these administrators if they actually let the local law enforcement, run drills at their school. So if they ever have to show up to your school, they know exactly, the layout of the school. They know where any, life-saving equipment is. They know how to get into the rooms. They know where any surveillance equipment within the school might be. Another thing that, schools, I recommend that schools do is, if they can find the budget for it, they can send a couple of their teachers, to some of these, medical training, trainings that are offered by all sorts of, private contractors, many of them former military and law enforcement guys. They used to put us through all sorts of, medical and trauma related trainings, where we would go and learn how to, take care of wounds on the battlefield. And you can get these types of trainings. Your teachers can get these types of trainings from private contractors. And, it's the sad thing is, and you've seen it time and time again with some of these mass shootings, a lot of times if you don't have aggressive, well-trained law enforcement on the outside, sometimes they'll just stop in the parking lot and, get analysis paralysis instead of going in, handling the threat, and then start addressing some of the wounds, that some of these kids or faculty have. And so if you have teachers, and equipment right there in the school that can, administer some of this first aid, life-saving training and equipment, you can, definitely save lives if and when that ever happens. And the sad thing is, as I've looked at this issue over and over again, most of these administrators, God bless them, they know nothing about security, right? That's not what they were trained in. And so they even though they see this stuff on the news all the time, instead of thinking, wow, I need to do something about that, their real thought is, God, I hope that never happens here. And that's really not a plan. And one of the last things that I'll say when it comes to school shootings, and you can go find these articles out there. I was on a school shooting task force years and years ago when this stuff was really rampant around the United States. And one of the things that we looked into was, I think it was 40 out of the last 42, and this was several years ago. So this, you'd have to go see what the data or math is now, but I think it was 40 out of the last 42 mass shooters were fatherless. And that's something that people don't want to talk about. But it is kind of a smoking gun when you look at analytics, right? And you've got to ask yourself, okay, what's the correlation there? Why? I have my own thoughts on it, but I think that a lot of it is a breakdown of the family. And so, yeah, I think that that's something that, obviously that's not going to be something that a government solves, but I think that's something that, we should look at within our own culture, within our own families, is trying to make sure that our kids grow up, with enough love, affection, discipline, and, mentorship, that they're less likely to, do something like that.
During COVID, I hang out with almost exclusively people who work out, right? CrossFitters. Greg Glassman built a company, 162 countries, all 7 continents, including Antarctica. During COVID, I found one CrossFitter who died from COVID, just one, and it was a fat guy in Europe. And when the pharma complex and the citizens of this country wanted a solution for the symptom, but not the cause. And the cause is that people are fat and overweight. It just is that way. People aren't going to like that. The same thing with homelessness. I was homeless for 5 years. There's not a homeless problem in the United States. That is a complete misnomer. That is the symptom of drug addicts. Of the 1,000 homeless guys I knew over 5 years, me and one other guy were the only 2 that didn't have a drug addiction. They're drug addicts and they're criminals. Their vocation is to steal bikes during the day, sell them, and buy drugs. That's just the way it is. I know someone's gonna be like, well, I know a homeless family. Fine. I'm talking about my experience, real experience in California. This thing that you're talking about the security that concerns me is you're putting security in the schools, but it's not and I do think that there should be, don't get me wrong, but it's addressing the symptom and not the cause. And then you finally did go back and address the cause. The problem is we don't have a society set up to where there's a mom at home taking care of the kids, and there's not a dad there who's like, keeping the kid, drawing strict boundaries for the kids. I completely agree. It's not going to go away until we address the issue. People are going to keep dying every year if they're obese from comorbidities and flus and things that don't kill people who don't eat like shit. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Ian Arswald, it's really easy for us to focus on doom and gloom. What's been the most positive aspect you've seen since joining the House of Representatives?
Oh boy. This isn't a real joyful place for me, but
you're a get shit done kind of guy, and that's not a get shit done kind of place. Navy SEALs get shit done, right? You guys are given an objective and you execute. This is not that. This is not like that. This is quicksand for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of people up here that I like a lot. I do think that this political victory in November should give you some peace and some joy. I think that you will see the quality of your life change quite a bit in the next 4 years. I do think you'll see, changes even geopolitically around the world that, will be positive. So I think that should give you some joy.
Like Trudeau, I saw yesterday something come in. I haven't researched it yet, but I saw all these notifications coming in that Trudeau's leaving. Did you see that yet last night?
Are you talking about the governor of Canada?
Yeah, the prime minister of Canada over there. Yeah, he's got serious problems now, huh? The Trump's 25% tariff thing has rattled the country.
Yeah, and that's one thing I love about this president. He's a businessman. He understands leverage, right? A lot of the American people, we've had it so good here for so long, they really don't even understand, what's the deal with, President Trump and his tariffs or his taxes. A lot of these other countries, they'll put a tariff on our products coming into their country or a tax, but then they don't want us to tax their products coming into our country. And we lose a lot of money, that way. And it's a really good way to protect, your exporters as well. And so that's one thing I love about President Trump is he's not afraid to actually use leverage. And when he does it, whether it's with Mexico or Canada, you see things happen immediately because, that's one way to, get a politician to change their tune immediately is impact them, economically or politically. And so I love that, President Trump uses his leverage. I think it's going to be, one of the many reasons that, our economy is going to start to boom again is just because he understands how to use that leverage. And, there's a lot of people up here that say, they talk about, well, we want free trade, free trade, free trade. And I think free trade is a good thing, but President Trump also adds on top of that fair trade, right? You're not going to tax, our manufacturers who export products to your country and then not expect that reciprocity, when it comes to your manufacturers exporting stuff over here. So if you want to keep the playing field even and no tax, no tariff, this administration, I think, is fine with that. But if you want to put a heavy tax on bicycles or cars or, whatever it is that we're sending over to your country, then we'll do that. We'll reciprocate over here.
Bernie Gannon, Eli, if you had a magic wand, what 2 or 3 reforms would you implement to make government work better and be less corrupt? Term limits, corruption monitor?
Yeah, I think, term limits would probably be at the top of the list. I think, let's see, I would, this is one thing that we fought for last year in this, the pretty historic speaker battle that took place with Kevin McCarthy. It was single subject germane bills. And what that means is like, if you're running a bill on, if you're running a bill on, the Department of Defense, appropriation, you can't throw, you can't throw, or let me say it this way. Right now we're voting on a CR that funds the government, and they're throwing in a bunch of other stuff. They're throwing in $100 billion supplemental disaster relief package into that. They're throwing in a bunch of other stuff for the ag community into that. And this is how things work up in DC. If you had single subject germane bills, then it would make it so much harder for politicians to vote on these swampy 1,000-page bills. And it would make it harder for them to come back and gaslight you on what they actually stand for. And so single subject germane bills, germane meaning, everything in the text of that bill has to pertain to the actual title, right? And we have so much of that going on up here, where you'll have a title, of a bill, and then you'll have text that has, and, notes and entries in it that have nothing to do with the title of that bill. So I would probably say, term limits, I think, would help a lot. Single subject germane bills.
Will that pass, that single subject germane bills? Because if I'm understanding correctly, basically it'll be a bill about gun control, but there'll be something in there about money for going to the local animal shelter. And if you vote against it, someone will be like, Eli Crane's against humane treatment of animals. And you're like, what?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest ways they get you, right? They'll put a bunch of pork and special interest stuff in a bill, but the title of the bill is, let's say, protecting kittens, or something that the American people align with or have their hearts, strings pulled over. And then if you vote against the pork in that bill, or some of the line items or some of the language in that bill, because it's corrupt or just bad policy, they'll be able to run the commercial against you saying that Eli, doesn't care about baby kittens, and that's one way that this swamp keeps its people in line.
When you were on Sean Ryan, I was tripping on the fact that things get stuck in committee and that Schumer has the decision over what the Senate votes on. That's unbelievable to me. That's so hard for me to process. The fact that something can make it through the House, get to the Senate, and then that one man can stop it from being voted on.
Yeah, of course. And it's, it's one of the reasons that the American people have to start paying attention and get loud, on things that they care about. I mean, in ways, you could make the counter argument. It's good to have checks and balances, right? And I think that's the way our founders set up this government, to where, it was almost designed to create, what's the good word here? not friction, but it's actually in many ways it's tough to get things done because of the checks and balances up here. And in some ways, I think that the corruption is so bad up in Washington, D.C., and the arrogance is so bad up here that oftentimes the gridlock, that's a better word for it, is a good thing in stopping some of the nonsense from coming out of here and going as quickly as it could had there not been a system designed, to create gridlock. But to your point, yeah, it is frustrating to, watch something go through the House of Representatives like HR2. It was a very comprehensive border security bill, one of the most comprehensive border security bills that ever came through Washington, D.C., and Chuck Schumer just sat on it knowing that, innocent, people all over the country were being, raped and murdered by Venezuelan gang members that weren't even supposed to be here. The amount of individuals on the terror watch list had grown, from 20 total the entire time that Trump was in office to well over 300, while Biden was in office. And, just a bunch of, that's one example of how Chuck Schumer, in the Senate could block legislation that passed the House.
Yeah, Eli, let me get one more question.
Okay.
So Trump went on Joe Rogan, and it was a 3-hour conversation. And to have a 3-hour conversation with someone, it's hard to play politics, right?
Yeah.
Because and by politics, I mean this. You have on the Supreme Court, you have a woman named Ketanji Brown Jackson. And when they asked her what is a woman, she's not comfortable giving an answer. Like whether it be, she could have said, it's someone with these chromosomes, or it's someone with a vagina, or she could have said, you're a fucking idiot. You know what a woman is. She could have given any honest answer, but instead she starts searching for the right answer.
Yeah.
Right. So when I'm talking to you, I can tell you're not searching for the right answer. You're just talking to me. We're having a conversation. Right.
Yeah.
Could we see a shift in politics to where it's okay to have a conversation and give the real answer, as opposed to, because before I could understand 20 years ago, if you said something wrong on the evening news, it could take forever that could be the end of your career. But now we see people like Jay Bhattacharya, who was canceled 4 years ago at Stanford, and now he's going to be head of the NIH because of information. He's been vindicated, right? Everything he said was true.
I think it's very possible that you could see a shift, and I hope that you do, because that's how this place works, right? I mean, most politicians, their idea of communicating with the American people is, going on, Fox News or CNN or one of the mainstream outlets. They'll get talking points from their comms guy, right before they do the hit. And they'll just regurgitate whatever the talking points are. But if you actually do long form podcasts like this, to your point, you're not just talking about the talking points, the approved narrative, right? You're actually, going off the cuff, speaking from the heart. And there is a risk to it, right? Because there will be people this cycle that are paid to watch this very interview, find a talking point of something that I said, whether it's taken out of context or manipulated, so that they can use it to run a commercial with, making me seem like a demon, right? And that's just how this place works, and politicians know it, and they're scared of it. But that being said, when the mainstream media, the ratings are plummeting, and guys that you just brought up, like Sean Ryan or Joe Rogan, that's what people are tuning into, because as we talked about, they crave free speech. They crave that, unvarnished exchange of ideas, and they want transparency. I think that's where the future is, and I think that's where, those are where your thought leaders and, people that lead in the future, I think, are going to continue to, go to, just because that's where the people are going to be. And as a representative, you have to be able to communicate with them where they're at.
Okay. My big takeaway is, and I heard you say it in Sean Ryan, and you got it out here, is as people, we need to keep using our voices. What's the best way to use our voices? If we see something, and is there a website we go to and just start banging on our congressman or our senator?
I'm glad you asked. There's actually, and I'm sure your audience is pretty tech savvy, but there's an app called Bill Blaster.
BILL Blaster,
Yep.
BLASTER. Okay.
Yeah, it was created by a gal named Grace Chong, and if you download this app on your phone, because normally if you want to contact your congressman, you have to go through the congressional switchboard, but this app will give you a direct number to your member of Congress or your senator's office, and it also gives you their social media platforms. So if you see something coming up like this CR this monstrosity we're about to vote on this week, and you say, hey, Congressman Crane, I don't want you voting for that. You can go to Bill Blaster. You can get my office number. You can find my social medias there, and you can blow me up. And that's something, that we can use against politicians, especially whose main priority is to get reelected. You can use that. You can use that against them, and you can blow them up and let them know you're not happy with what they're about to do.
All right. Hey, if by any chance you see Gavin Newsom in DC, please tell him I think he's a douche. Thank you so much for coming on, dude. You are a great man. You give me hope. You're awesome.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
All right, and tell
Appreciate
Zach I
the
said
time.
pleasure working with them.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Eli Crane, dang, gave us an hour and 10 minutes. Very cool. All right. Bill, what is it? What, Bill Blaster? How do we not know about that? How do I not know about that? Bill Blaster. Bill Blaster. I listened to his podcast he did with Sean Ryan yesterday, and he put a lot of emphasis on that. He basically, and I want to say that Sean Ryan was able to actually influence with his audience, was able to actually get some influence in some law or bill that was passed or wasn't passed. I wasn't able to follow it, but they kept referencing this cohort of 340,000 people, 345,000 people that put their weight behind something. The man with the flying penis says not bad. 7. Thank you. Thank you. Don't give me too many compliments. It makes me think that you thought I was going to do a shitty job. What impresses you about Eli Crane? Man, helmet safety first, right, Melinda? Helmet. The fact that he can talk. How about just starting there? Just the fact that he can talk, that it doesn't seem rehearsed. Yeah. That it doesn't seem rehearsed. It's wild. Yeah. You when you speak to him, you don't feel like you're in a box. You're not in a box. Where it's like, okay, you don't feel, when you talk to someone and you feel the boundaries of what they can and can't talk about. If you lived in California, you'd feel that all the time. You're not going to get an eye roll from the guy. You have to remember, I live in a spot where you're like, hey, why are you giving yourself your 6-month-old an injection for a venereal disease that there's no chance your kid could have unless the mother was a intravenous drug user? Why are you changing the kid's immune system right at 6 months old, or right at birth? They do it right at birth when the baby comes out. Where I live, they'll roll their eyes. Oh, you're an anti-vaxxer. It's like, and it's just a breath of fresh air to be able to speak to someone who's in a place of influence that doesn't do that. He wasn't dodging I don't think he was dodging the school shooting question. I don't think he's on top of. There's not every subject he can be on top of. Just think of how much information is coming at him. He gave ex-SEAL turned Colombian drug lord vibes. Is that what you're saying? He's got great hair. Oh, he's just. I pulled up the Supreme Court justices during the show. Man, Ketanji Brown Jackson. What a mess. I don't know if you guys have seen this. This just popped up last night as I was going to bed. Are you guys following what's going on in Canada? It looks like Justin Trudeau is done. Canadian political crisis, ruling party MPs demand PM Trudeau's resignation. I guess his right-hand man, his right-hand woman, announced Monday she was quitting the cabinet. That's his 5th cabinet member that's dropped out. Justice Trudeau faced renewed calls for a quick departure after Finance Minister what the hell's her name? Christia? Ms. Freeland announced on Monday that she was quitting the cabinet over differences with the Prime Minister. And then as you dig down further, the differences are regarding how to deal with Trump and Trump's talk of 25% tariffs on Canada. The number of rebel MPs who have sought his ouster have grown to nearly 60 of the 153-strong caucus in the House of Commons. Man, good luck, Canada. Good luck. You guys are going to need it. I'd love to hear about those differences. She's been a loyal globalist stooge from the get-go. Yeah. Clock, how do you know so much? Do you live in Canada? You just collect a government check and sit around and read all day? Janelle Winston, she laughed at freezing people's bank accounts. All right. So there's that. I wonder if I should start starting the show at 6 a.m. instead of 7 a.m. every morning. What do you guys think? Might help people on the East Coast. Holy shit. This weekend, Saturday morning, Kill Taylor will be $3,000. I'm pretty pumped about that. Thank you to Paper Street Coffee. Boy, Christmas is rolling around. I got my list of questions from you guys yesterday about Dave. That should be good. All my notes are gone. How can that be? How can that be? I must have accidentally erased them all. All right, maybe the show's over. It's all gone. Let me see who's on the calendar for the rest of the week here. Tomorrow, Greg Glassman will be on 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I spoke to him yesterday. I still got to get Colton Mertens on. Oh, check this out. Friday morning, Bob Forrest and Taylor Self will be coming on. Taylor took the DNA for addiction test to see if what his likeliness, if his genetics make him predisposed to addiction. And so Taylor will be on with Bob Forrest. I don't know if you guys remember, Bob Forrest has been on the show before. He had that addiction show with Dr. Drew for several years. And they'll be coming on, and he'll be analyzing Taylor's results. And he has Andrew Hiller's results too. So after we do Taylor, we'll have Andrew Hiller on. I don't have a date for when Mr. Castro is coming on. It should be sooner than later. I think it's my fault. I think I need to contact Jenna Hawk over there at CrossFit. She's the chief marketing officer, and just have a little chat with her first. She's been great. God, what a relief it is when you get someone that you can actually talk to, like another person you can have real conversations with. So that's been pleasant for me. All right. Talk about Wooly and dense beef. I don't honestly, I don't know anything about it. I did yesterday watch John Woolley's piece on Greg Glassman on the Constantly Varied channel. Dude, it's the best thing I've seen that he's put out so far. I thought it was very he played it safe. Obviously, the New York Times is a complete shit rag. There's no depth to the article. There's no takeaway. I agree with everything Woolley said. I wish Woolley would have been harsher, but I guess it's not his style. It's embarrassing what's happened over there. It's just a complete rehashing. Just imagine this. Greg Glassman has surrounded himself with the sharpest minds in the world for the last 2 years in order to build a curriculum, in my words, not Greg's, that that explains and shows people how the acquisition of knowledge occurs in the mind and then how to do it without being duped. And it's a major fucking undertaking. It's like the philosophy of knowledge, and then to share it with people at a fourth grade level, so you can't be duped by mainstream media and superficial reporting. And yet there's no mention of that in the article. And I mean, how many times has Greg said on this show that he's tired of teaching the push press? He's not going back to that. Sevon, did you see SCOTUS Justice Ketanji Brown appeared on Broadway a few days ago in an LGBTQ, etc. theme Romeo and Juliet production? Cringe. Are you kidding me? Like, she appeared on stage? It's wild. It's wild. Let me look that up. Yeah. Ketanji Brown Theater Lover makes her Broadway debut. My goodness. I say this with peace and love. She's dumber than a box of rocks. Imagine imagine the quality of your life. Imagine the quality of your life if you can't answer the question, what is a woman? Just imagine. Imagine someone asked you that and you live in such a confined box of what's okay and not okay to say that you can't answer that question. At that point, the quality of your life has eroded to just garbage. That's someone you don't want someone like that representing you, because then you can see they have no value for freedom. This is just what popped up on Twitter. I don't even know what this is. Is this her? Man, she is short. She might be shorter than me.
Female empowerment. Sick.
Welcome to the first day of rehearsal.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This has been a dream of mine.
Eclectic, I guess. How would she have time to do that? How would she have time to do that? You guys who don't remember, recently she made the news a couple weeks ago. What was the she was comparing, what was it, gender affirming surgery? She was comparing the rights of Black people, the legality of them being allowed to be married to white people in the 50s and 60s in comparison to sterilizing children, the right for children to sterilize themselves, to alter, fuck with their hormones. A lot of people will talk about inflammation as being like the key to, all sickness is somehow inflammation related. Don't also forget that all health is related to your hormones, hormone balance, eating balanced. Eat too much sugar, fuck your hormones up, you go crazy. You don't want to mess with your hormones ever. You want to eat balanced. You want to eat in a way that keeps you hormonally. Pat Lang, Supreme Court justices get more time off than any other government workers. Sevon, do you know anything about the school shooting yesterday in Madison, Wisconsin? My wife is a teacher in a Christian school 2 hours from there. I don't know anything. I don't know anything. I didn't look at it closely. There was someone in the comments who was subtly coming at Eli, suggesting that schools do have security. So while I was on the air with him, I was quickly trying to Google around to see if that particular school had security. I personally don't like the idea of schools having security. I probably live in some sort of fantasy land. I like a world where, moms and dads are raising their kids. I like a world where more kids are homeschooled. And when I mean homeschooled, that's a misnomer too. I just want to live in a world where people actually raise their kids, where they don't put them behind a chain link fence 8 to 10 hours a day. I want a world where, at 10 o'clock in the morning, it's okay to see a mom or a dad at a grocery store shopping with their kids. I'm letting their kid look at the list, add up the price, pay for the food, getting that kind of education. Yeah, basically all the illnesses will arrive if your hormones are out of whack. All of them will arrive. It's the only thing keeping you healthy. You just need this thing will make you crazy and kill you. Yeah, Heidi knows about it. Yeah, women know about it. And the quickest way to influence your hormones is just what you put in your face, what you let past your lips down into the stomach. Does anyone know? Do you know anything about the shooting? Do you want to say anything about the shooting? Who was that? Where was that comment? I mean, I could guess. I'm going to guess they're going to look into it, and it's going to be a wackadoodle. I mean, obviously, right? It's going to be some sort of wackadoodle. Someone who's confused about their sexuality, only doesn't have parents or only has one parent, plays video games 13 hours a day. It's funny the correlates you could draw, right? There's no school shooter who can run a 7-minute mile, right? Yeah, probably trans or wannabe trans or gay or, something like that, or polyamorous or. Hey, good morning.
Hey, Sevy.
Hey, what's up, dude?
Hey, it's this Rosie calling.
Hi, Rosie.
Hi. Hey, I just wanted to comment on the school shooting in Madison. So I know Heidi, she's her kid, I think she said was her kid's school is like 5 minutes away from there. I'm also in Wisconsin. Not that I have any not that I know a whole lot, but I did listen to the report from the police officer, the head police officer in Madison, and he was stating that the shooter was a 15-year-old girl. I know there's
like really a girl.
I mean, apparently, as far as we know, and then she is deceased, and so is a teacher and another student, and a second grader was the one that called in 911.
Wow, how did the second grader do that? The second grader had a cell phone?
They didn't disclose any information on that, but apparently the shooter was in study hall with a number of others, like different grades of students, is what it sounded like from the report. And I'm assuming or generalizing that maybe the second grader was like in a classroom not too far away. I mean, you hear a gunshot, you're like, you know what that is. You know what I mean? So.
So the student was a student at the school. It was a student.
Yeah,
at school.
a second grade student.
No, but I mean the shooter.
The shooter, yeah, 15-year-old girl.
And she's dead.
They released her name. I can't remember her name. I'm sure Heidi will say it in the comments. But she apparently, there's speculation too. There's photos. I don't know if on her social media, she had posted some really crazy stuff about she wanted to commit suicide, but instead she wanted to like take out a bunch of people or something instead of committing suicide. But she ended up committing suicide anyway by shooting herself.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
Yeah. But I mean, like I said, I just listened to the news report from this from late last night that they had given. I listened to it this morning, and they had finally given a name. Like I said, I can't remember the girl's name at the top of my head, but she had one name, but then she went by some other name, like Samantha something, I think. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure Heidi probably is commenting on it, but yeah, it's really crazy wild. I know a couple of parents that I go to the gym with, their kids had played like sports against that school, so it's just kind of crazy. And like I said, Heidi's kid like goes to school like 5 minutes away. So I mean, Madison is a pretty big city, so it's just kind of wild. Like the school, I think they said the school was like a size of like 300 some students in total. It's like K through 12.
What's crazy is that no one figured that out. Like if she was a student at the school, no one was like, "Hey, this chick's a wackadoodle. Keep eyes on her." I mean, I have to assume that she was an open wackadoodle.
Right. I mean, they're like back in the day, like when I was in school, there was a couple kids in school that I'm like, yeah, this person could shoot up the school.
Right.
But you never like said anything about it because you're like, okay, this person's a whack job.
They should have that in the yearbook instead of like most likely to see. It should be most likely to shoot up the school.
I mean, yeah, there was a kid on my bus that I rode the bus with, and he was like, you totally thought he was a psychopath. Like he was a nut job, but nobody ever said anything. They just kept to themselves, you know. But yeah, it's just really unfortunate and really, really sad. I mean, I can't even imagine what those families are going through right now.
Okay. Thank you.
But yeah, I just wanted to buzz in and give some 2 cents on it. But like I said, yeah. Hope you all is well, Savan.
Thank you.
You're crushing it, man.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Good to hear your voice. Bye-bye. Rosie. Pat Lang, Sevi, do you know the ratio of trans to non-trans among mass shooters since Columbine? No, nor do I give a fuck. And that's not relative compared to, without also mentioning the ratio of trans to non-trans in the population. So if you're going to try to say smart shit like that, make sure you add that in there too, because that would be irrelevant. And the fact, I'm not suggesting by any means that the person was trans or not trans. It was more of a speaking in not facetious, but maybe in hyperbole that like, yeah, you know, the person's fucked up. I already told you, say bring a little fact. I already told you I don't know anything about it. I haven't researched it at all. But I will tell you this, Pat. If you let me make your accusation correct. That kid's family life is fucked up. I'm willing to bet my dog's life on it. And I'm willing to bet your dog's life on it that kid was diddled. How about that? Those two things. So there, take that. Someone reached out to me yesterday and said, "Hey, so you guys know that was one of the primary reasons Greg finally took his kids out of private school. They went to a private school in Arizona, and there was a school shooting one day, and he heard it on the radio. He's like, "Fuck it, I'm pulling my kids out of school." And my wife used to be worried about that too. Hey, maybe worried's too strong, but it was a thought in her mind. I had never. I'm completely in the world of that shit would never happen to me. I live in complete denial. But someone yesterday reached out to me and they said, "Holy shit, this makes me want think about homeschooling my kids." Listen, if you can raise your kids and you're not, you are fucking up. I don't mean like morally or ethically or responsibility. I'm not no judgment like that. I'm saying that like the greatest part of my day is when I get off of here and then spend the rest of the day with my kids. So I'm going to get off with you. They're going to be finishing up their schooling and then I'm going to hang out with them all day. I'm going to play with them all day. Wrestle, play tennis, jiu-jitsu, whatever. Poker, teach my kid how to edit, go to the butcher. It's great. And I'll tell you this too. I used to think raising your kids was complete wackadoodle shit, right? Just like I thought it was wackadoodle not to inject your kid right at birth with drugs prescribed by the U.S. government. And now that I've made it to the other side of the fence, I'm looking over and I'm like, holy shit. How was I ever over on that side? It's just like, do you remember being an age when like you would do anything for a box of Fruit Loops and now you wouldn't eat a box of Fruit Loops unless there was a gun to your head? It's like that. Like there's no fucking way I'm eating those. Are you kidding me? I'll just hang out and not eat today. Here, Pat, here we go. At least abused. Whoa. You said what? She's a real girl? Yeah, listen, buddy, Mr. Lang, the distinguished gentleman from the land of gardening. Remember the shooter that they had? That was a pointed joke and reference. You remember the shooter they had? I don't remember where it is, in the South, in Texas or wherever, where the news stories, it was a boy or a girl, depending on how politically correct the news wanted to be. Do you remember that? Like it was I think it was a woman who transitioned to a boy, so some people were reporting it as a boy, but the real honest people were reporting it to as a girl. It was in reference to that. And listen, there's no such thing. Listen, there's no such thing as transgender anyway. And it's like me saying, does that person is the Sasquatch? There's no such thing as it. It's just a made up category between your ears. It's just made up, dude. Completely made up. It shouldn't even bother you. I'm talking about made up shit. Let's not argue about made up shit. I haven't argued about who would win in a fight, Batman or Superman, in, I don't know, since the 4th grade. Like, you're born with a penis, you're a dude. You're born with a vagina, you're a girl. That's it. All the other stuff's just made up. It doesn't even matter. Nobody. When you say we all knew it, it was either a boy or a girl. There's no such thing as trans. Me and you, we've transcended that in this conversation. You can't go back now. No, Batman does not have prep time. Get with the programming. Batman does not have prep time. It's knock on both their doors at 3 a.m. They don't know there's going to be a fight. They step out and they have to duel. Does he get prep time? What fucking question is that? Listen, think of trans as a mental. Okay, that fair question, Pat. You're saying, then why did you ask if she was trans or it was trans? Think of trans as just a state of mind. Think of trans as a state of mind, like horny or hungry or upset. It's just a state of mind. It's not a thing, dude. It's not a thing. We're all adults here. We can distinguish between our thoughts and reality. It's not a thing. Oh, fuck. One punch and Batman's brain is pudding. I agree. And then that's it. No more. No. You really want to upset, get with the programming off. He would do Superman would do the same thing to Captain America too, by the way. One punch to the head and his brain is pudding. That's right. We need to change. We need to change the name. It can't be homeschooling anymore. I cannot believe all my notes are gone. I had so much good stuff for you. What a day for this to happen. What if I would have lost the Eli Crane notes? One of the things I should have brought up about Eli is he is going to the Congressional Gold Medal. He's going to try to get the Congressional Gold Medal for Daniel Penny. I wonder what that involves. Daniel Penny's the guy who was on the subway in New York City, and there was some guy freaking out, threatening to kill people, and Daniel Penny took him to the ground, and then later the guy died at the hospital. Remember that? And then they tried him for murder or some crazy shit. Something like 9 of the 11 people on the train testified that they were thankful of Daniel Penny. Hey, once those 9 of 11 said, "Hey, we're glad Daniel Penny did that," shouldn't that be the jury of his peers? They should have just asked those people. Fuck getting a jury. Just get those people who were on the train. Wow, wouldn't that be a trip? Yeah, there's a lot of things I hope Trump does. I hope Trump takes care of Penny, gives him a position, maybe security. I hope he pardons Derek Chauvin. At least let him out of jail. Poor guy got stabbed 22 times while in jail. So that's cool. That's something Eli Crane's doing. He tried to get Daniel Penny the Congressional Gold Medal. I don't know how that works. I don't know if you have to vote on that. Does anyone know how that works? Should I wiki that? Or can just one guy just nominate you and then someone second it and the shit's a go? Congressional Gold Medal. It is the oldest and highest civilian award in the United States, along with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. It is bestowed by vote of the United States Congress, signed into law by the president. So I guess they have to vote on it. I wonder if it's just a majority. There's no general statutory scheme for creation of the award. When a Congressional Gold Medal is deemed appropriate, Congress provides for the creation of each medal by passing a law to that effect. Each chamber of Congress, the House and the Senate, impose supermajority sponsorship rules to begin consideration. Wow. Each medal is ordered to be uniquely designed and cast in gold by the United States Mint. Thus, there are significantly fewer gold medals than presidential medals. U.S. citizenship is not a requirement. As of November 29th, 2023, 184 people, events, or institutions have been awarded a Congressional Gold Medal. Wow, so not a lot of them. That's pretty amazing. I wanted to ask Eli, on his wiki page, it says that he was a conspiracy theorist in regards to election fraud in 2020. Man, wiki is a I mean, I'm glad, I'm thankful we have it, but what a dumpster fire of just liberal propaganda. All right. Tonight, Oh Baby Beast is coming back on. Kaylee, I think she's going to decide who she's going to take to Tony Hinchcliffe. Am I saying his name right? Tony Hinchcliffe or Hincliffe? Kaylee will be coming on. Oh, I need to tell Patrick Rios that actually. Rios. Let me see if I can get Rios on the line. So she has tickets to the big show.
Good morning.
Hey, we're live on the air.
What's up?
Hey, could you make an Instagram like clip or something promoting tonight's show at 7 p.m.? Kaylee's coming on to pick the winner of who gets to go to the front row tickets to Tony Hinchcliffe.
Oh yeah.
And that's 7 p.m. tonight.
Okay.
All right. Hey, and great clip that you made with Eli Crane. Thanks for getting that up so fast.
Yeah, no problem.
All
How
right,
was
dude.
he?
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
Everything good? We're all set for January 11th and 12th. Filming Greg's up. We're all good, right?
Yep.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.
See ya.
All right. All right. So tonight's show is going to be good. Clock, hi, good morning. Well, what the federal government can do is launch a Department of Justice civil rights investigation of Chauvin's trial and conviction. Seems there might be enough evidence to do that. Oh, that you mean since Trump wouldn't have the ability to pardon him since it's a state case, rather look into the corruption of the case as a workaround? Guess we know who runs the page. Well, not exactly. Will Brandstetter does a lot on the page too, but Will can only do G-rated up to PG-13 type of things. Will is a very straight-laced, what we would call in the hood L7. And so he's not. This is a bit of a more risque project, which requires maybe looking at some pictures and making a post that doesn't align with Will's values, or I don't even know what I'm saying, but you get it. Will is more not Will's a different kind of breed. No, that's a square. Hello, caller, hi. Good morning. Fantastic conversation. Thank you.
Savvy.
Oh, dude, I was so close to hanging up. You're lucky you
Dude,
got
don't
me.
hang up on.
You're lucky you got the
Don't hang up.
Sevy. That hit me right in my heart. Oh, it's you. Dude, are you proud of
It's
me or
me.
what?
Well, why would I be proud of you?
Is this the steak eater?
No, this is Pat Lang.
Oh, Pat. Oh shit. Okay. Good to see you, buddy. I thought it was the guy, the guy, the guy who only eats steak and fruit. I thought it was him for a second.
No. It's Pat Lang. I just want to talk to you about this.
Let's talk.
You got 2 seconds. I know you want to get off.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just getting too
Do you
warm in
think-
here. I got all dressed up for Eli and I'm getting all warm in here.
I understand. Do you think that there's fucked up kids and mental illness and all these problems with families in any other countries in the world? Or do you think it's just the United States?
I think that the problem, I mean, I'm really speaking out of line here, but I think it's really bad in Western countries right now.
It's bad everywhere, dude. Human beings are human beings. Social media is a worldwide epidemic. There's mental illness everywhere. Kids get bullied everywhere. The mass shooting problem is really only in the United States. I mean, can we at least agree on that?
Yeah. But listen, if you're in survival mode,
Yeah.
these things don't manifest. If you're at zero manifestation, and then the more cush things get, these things, this is a really simple explanation, the more these things manifest. That's what I meant, mostly Western civilizations. You know how it is. Let me just give one quick example. And I do agree with you with the mass shooting things. But when my kids are outside playing, there's no fighting. I've never seen my kids get into a fight outside playing in the yard. Not once. And my kids are fucking professional fighters. But there's video games, and 2 hours in, someone's like, "Hey, dude, don't do that again." And the next thing I know, someone's punching someone else in the face. And it's like,
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
just imagine our kids are surrounded by all of this fucking nonsense that is not functional to their survival. And so that gives them the space to do all these fucking crazy things. But dude, I think, and I don't know if you're going to agree with this, I think the biggest thing is right after parenting is food.
Oh, okay, all these things could be
I don't
contributing
think it's
to this
guns.
problem.
I don't think it's guns. If that's where
All
you're
right,
going,
all right.
is that where you're going? You
All
want
right.
to fight with me about guns?
No.
No.
No. See, this is what everybody thinks. Like, oh, Pat wants to ban guns. Pat doesn't want to fucking ban guns. What I'm telling you is, we know there's a mental illness problem in the United States. It's everywhere in the world.
Right.
Yet we still sell guns to people that we know have these problems. Okay, Nashville, Uvalde, Vegas, Parkland, Aurora. I could go down the list, and believe me, I've researched this shit a lot. All those shooters were in therapy with severe problems. Doctors knew all about it, and they all walked into stores, legally bought their guns, and within a few days went and mowed down a bunch of people.
Let's use Hunter Biden as the example.
We can't control that.
Hey, listen, let's use Hunter Biden as the example. You're right. A gun sale to a fucking drug addict.
That's right, and he lied on his application, and he should have. But I mean, let's be real though. I mean, if there was any fucking legitimate gun application policies, then you would find the freaking lie, because you would be doing research into these applications. But all I'm saying is, we know a lot of the times who these crazies are. You know, it drives me crazy when we say, oh, the Vegas shooter. Oh yeah, he was bipolar. Oh yeah, he told his doctor he wanted to kill people. He bought 50 guns legally in the 3 weeks prior to renting that hotel room and killing 50 people. Don't you think that's a guy that shouldn't get his guns? I mean, is it really that bad to say, sorry, buddy, you lose your 2A rights when you tell a psychiatrist you're thinking about walking into a school and killing a bunch of people? That doesn't take guns away from any law-abiding citizens that have no issues. They can have all the fucking guns they want. They can go around shooting them. If they got small dicks, they can shoot them all day long. I don't care. I want you to have guns. What I don't want is some psycho to have it and walk in and kill my kid.
Okay, let me give you perspective that most people don't even have the fucking, and I'm not saying it's true, but let me give you some perspective that most people don't even have the fucking attention span to understand. Ready?
Yeah, I got you. I'm here.
Okay. Big picture. There's two things you need that I want to throw out there to you. If you start doing stuff around guns, you have to be very careful that it doesn't turn into a slippery slope. You have to be very, very careful, because if you do, and it turns into a slippery slope. Do you know what I'm referencing like that? Like look at, they started gassing tax in California, and now it's over $1 a gallon is gas. Our tax is over $1 a gallon. It's completely gotten fucking out of control. They should have never fucking taxed gas. But so
I get what you're saying.
We can't open the door and start, because if we do, we have to always remember that if you address the guns, you're trying to fix the symptom instead of the cause. And that's exactly what we did with COVID. COVID's going to cause millions of more, the reaction to COVID is going to cause millions more deaths than actually COVID did. And kids getting raped, and people getting beaten, and people losing jobs, and just all, you know, the whole fucking downstream effect that the quarantines and all that shit are going to cause, or are causing. That's that. Like, if you're going to do something around guns, you can't do it so it turns into a slippery slope, and next thing you know, we're like the fucking UK or Australia or any of those European countries where the men have to fucking walk around holding their ankles with their fucking butthole.
I got you, but
you know?
What I'm saying is, you're not doing anything around guns. You're doing it around the people that shouldn't have them. And I'm not talking about, like, McCaskey's making comments oh, the government will determine everyone crazy. That's bullshit. We're literally talking about people who are clinically crazy. There's a federal law that you can't be a convicted felon and get a gun. That's against somebody's 2A rights. We made that law. Nobody fucking cares about that. Why the hell are we selling them to people that are putting shit on social media saying, I want to walk into a school and murder people? I mean, come on. It's fucking common sense. It's legitimate, easy, simple, common sense.
Well, okay. Listen, let me find a spot where we can agree. If someone comes in, let's say I'm a gun salesman, and someone comes in to buy a gun, and then I send it to the government, and they check their Instagram, and they see, I can't wait to kill nuns at the local fucking
It's
Catholic.
not the government, though. That's the thing. Don't say the government. Has nothing to do with the government.
Oh, I thought who
These are-
does the background checks? I'm ignorant to that. That's a private organization that does it?
Oh, no. The government would do the background checks, but the recommendation about someone who's in therapy on all sorts of freaking Prozac and medication is going to be the one that makes that determination.
Okay, but I'm sorry. I'm jumping to this I made an assumption. I made an assumption that you want greater oversight and investigation into people buying guns before the gun is handed to them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean,
so
if
who
you
would
don't
be
want that, if you don't want that, then you don't want the problem to be solved. Then you're okay with kids getting shot all the time and guys that go to bowling alley.
Hold on a
I
second.
mean, it's savvy. If you don't want to do anything, then you're okay with that psycho who spent 2 weeks in a mental institution and then drove up to Maine and shot up a bowling alley.
Here's the problem with what
and
I
bought
have you
his
say.
guns after that.
Hey, what you're saying though is tantamount to like God does everything. What I mean by
No,
that is what
I'm
I mean
not.
by what I mean by that is that line that you're saying that if you don't want that, it means that you're okay with people getting killed. I could say that about 100 things. I could say that if you send your kids to school, it means I could draw a show that homeschool kids have never shot anyone up in a school. So that basically I could say if you don't want everyone to be homeschooled, you're all for fucking school shooters. I mean, it's just too broad. You're grabbing too much of the pie by saying that. You're suggesting that if someone doesn't want insane or the oversight that you want for purchasing a gun, then that they support school shooting. But there's other factors,
I'm saying
dude.
that
We
it's been
cannot
happening
let
for 20 years. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
I said we've been doing this we've been watching this happen since Columbine, and we've done nothing. What have we done? You tell me what we've done. As a matter of fact, it's gotten worse. So is it really off base to sit back and say that we're not okay with it? Because we watch it happen all the time.
No, you can say you're
And
completely not
everybody
okay
says
with it. I'm just concerned.
Thoughts and prayers. That's what everybody says. Like that's going to fucking do something. Thoughts and prayers. Oh, I really feel bad for these people. By the way, we're not going to do a fucking thing. We're going to keep selling guns to people that we know have massive issues.
I don't want just hear me on this. I do not want the solution to make things worse. I'm very concerned always that the solution is going to make things worse because I see that happen all the time.
I get what you're saying, but we haven't even sat down to even start the conversation about what the solution is going to be.
All right. Thank you.
That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I love hearing from you.
You know, I know everybody in the chat disagrees with me. Like McCaskey's like, oh, they're going to take guns away from everybody. I've been hearing that they're taking guns away from everybody thing since I was 10 years old. They haven't taken any fucking guns away yet. Even in Massachusetts, you can have your guns. You can have them.
Let me ask you this. So do you think it would be a bad thing if we had all our gun rights taken away in this country?
Absolutely fucking horrible. I am so I am as pro 2A as they get. All right. I want you to have as many guns as you want. I don't care. You can have 100. As soon as you start showing that you're a threat to society, like a legitimate threat. I'm not talking about someone who gets in a fight with his friend. I'm talking about a legitimate threat. And I understand when you say, well, who's making that call? Well, all those examples I gave you, these mass shooters, when you look back at their past, you will, if you have a brain, say, yeah, that guy shouldn't have had a gun. It's not that difficult. You're never going to solve all the problems, but shit, can we start solving a few of them? That's all I'm saying.
Hey, dude, there's some crazy shit you could do. Like, hey, I'm going to say the craziest one ever. You ready?
Yep.
Here's one. I'll give you two crazy ones. You could say that every single shooter had been diddled by Uncle Buck. And I bet you you're 99%.
I've looked into a lot of them. They haven't been.
Yes, they have. They've all been diddled by Uncle Buck. Hey, listen, what if they were to be like, hey, blacks can't own guns?
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, we're getting crazy here.
But completely ridiculous. But you have to fucking be careful because a lot of this logic that you're applying, when you start applying it logically to over things, like you're like, well, 51% of all killings are done by black people with guns, and so we're going to outlaw black people have guns. We live with fucking crazies that the only thing stopping them from saying shit like that is virtue signaling.
Okay, so your black person comment,
yeah.
You know what? You're right. The problem is most black people that are shooting people are getting their guns illegally. They're not getting them legally because they probably can't based on current gun laws that stop them from getting them. So they have to go to the black market and get, which we know that there's hundreds of millions of guns out there on the black market. That's another issue. Now, we can delve into that one too. I'm talking about the psycho white people who are buying guns and going into malls, bowling alleys. I mean, let's start there. Then you can get into the inner city shooting. None of those people are buying their guns legally.
My point wasn't skin color. My point is the rationale for who's going to get guns and not get guns is going to be very, very difficult.
It's going to be 99.5% of them will get guns, and there's not that many crazy people out there. I know we want to think there are, but there are a lot of people in therapy right now that I guarantee you their therapist would say, this motherfucker is going to kill some people if he gets a hold of guns. And that's everybody I said to you on that list. They are all telling their doctors that. But there's no law in the books that stops the sale. Yes, there's red flag laws, but you need people in your family to turn on you, to call the police, to do that. And even if the police are called, they're still very rarely going to get involved because they're too worried about, like what you're saying, is getting involved in someone's Second Amendment rights. Well, fine. We got 2A rights here and everyone can have it. And here's the result. We're watching the result of crazy people getting guns. And what do we do about it? Well, we haven't done anything, Sebs.
Do you think do you think that whoever owned that gun that the girl used to shoot up the Christian school yesterday, do you think that the person who bought that gun would have passed your criteria for gun purchase? I know that's a really fucked up question.
There is a decent percentage of school shooters, kids that are underage, that without a doubt get their guns from their parents.
But do you think their parents are saying
there's nothing you could do about that? No, yeah, absolutely. That's probably legal. And like I said,
okay, then fuck your law. Then fuck your law. Never mind.
Well, sorry, dude.
All right.
You know, you got to start somewhere.
No.
You know?
No. You
got to start something. All right, so you're just going to sit back and say, forget it.
I think we'd be better off focusing on the school lunch program than your program. Anyway, thank you though. You say some good important stuff. Thank you, Pat.
All right. Bye. All right, buddy.
Guys, he's not angry. He's passionate. That's a passionate man. Very passionate. This guy needs to be on the list he's asking for. No way. I would hey, let me tell you, if you were trapped, if you were like at an amusement park and there was a shooter, I think Pat Lang is the first. Like, Pat would accidentally kill innocents protecting his family. I think he is. Yeah. Seth, psychiatrist prescribed a gun grab. They're beholden to pharma. Who is to say they wouldn't be beholden to political agenda? Yeah. Seth, you nailed it. Everything is going to get captured. Anywhere you put in any rules, someone's going to try to capture the authority of those of controlling those rules, and it's going to be bad. And right now, thank God. I mean, thank God there's enough money behind guns that they keep that open. Excuse me. Jody, was that you who called yesterday? I think the dad purchased a gun, but what do I know? Was that you who called yesterday? Or the day before? Someone was asking me if that was you, and I didn't even know that was you. Oh, when you said, was that you who said you can check my LinkedIn? Was that you? Our Mexican contingent's calling.
Hola. Yeah, what's up, man?
Hola,
I'm calling
vato.
in for this fucking
Hola, vato.
this fucking gun bullshit, man.
Okay, tell me.
So, well, I used to be a general manager at a gun store and selling guns in Atlanta. So, probably one of the cities with the most black population.
Yeah, did you sell a lot of guns to rappers?
Yeah, Meek Mill's tried to come in, but because he has a record, we couldn't sell him a gun.
Do you have to ask him to leave the store, or can you even be in the store?
They can't. If they have like a certain, like if they're still on parole, they can't be in the store. We have to tell them to get out.
Wow.
But yeah, because like they're breaking the law by being in the store anyways. But he's talking about Pat talking about this people with psychiatric bullshit and having to do something with like checking their records, right? And people being in therapy and all that. Like, you can't do that because of HIPAA violations. And then FBI and NICS doesn't have the ability to do that. FBI NICS system is what checks the background checks when we submit it.
But he's saying just cut through that bullshit, right? He's saying, okay, then let's change that law too. In his defense, he's saying, okay, then let's give gun owner, if you want to buy a gun, then you have to give up your rights. This the same way to eat in a restaurant in San Francisco, you have to give up your medical rights.
Yeah, well, that means that you have to have a doctor. Like every store that sells guns would have to have someone who is licensed enough to go through the HIPAA through HIPAA or HIPAA trained to be able to look into those records, and people can't afford that. Or even FBI. FBI has to have a doctor or someone, a case manager, to go through your medical records to say, hey, this person's been in therapy for like last 6 months for whatever, and he has some suicidal thoughts. Can't sell him a gun. But that violates the whole three-day rule or 5-day rule that you guys have, or 10-day rule that's in California or anything like that. You have to go through HIPAA, and trying to get HIPAA license is fucking crazy.
You know how they would do it, by the way, if they did it? They would just tax the guns. So they would put a $300 fucking background check tax on every single gun.
I mean, yeah. I mean, for our FBI NICS stuff, we used to tack on a $30 charge for every gun purchase.
Hey, and I don't even think it would make a change, by the way. I'm not saying, I don't think Pat's idea would make a change, because I think the crazies are going to shoot.
Oh yeah, 100%. We used to have people come in straw purchases, right? Meaning that like your cousin is trying to buy a gun for you. Like if Lizzie bought Taylor a fucking gun, that's a straw purchase. So like we used to catch. So the first line of defense is really those gun sales, man. Like I deny guns all the time. I don't do it. I used to deny guns all the time. If I think you're fucking weird, I just go on the system and put deny and send it to FBI.
Hey,
I just don't sell people.
Let me ask you about that real quick. So about a year ago, I went to the passport. I went to the post office to get passports for my 3 kids and my wife and I, right? And the fucking little Poindexter behind the counter at the post office, right? Guy looked like, he was nice, but he's a full creep. Too nice, He starts talking to my kids, and I can't remember exactly what he asked me. He says, I want to say, did he ask, does your daddy ever spank you? Or something crazy like that. And I'm like, hey, what's with all the questions? He's like, well, if we suspect that there's anything weird here and you're trying to run out of the country with your fucking kids, he didn't say fucking, we have to report it, or I have to deny your ability to get a passport. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Some fucking dude who works at the fucking post office who's giving me pedo vibes is in determination on whether I get a passport. Are you saying it's like that at the gun store too? Like you could just sniff something funny and be like, nah, this guy ain't getting it. Like what if you just didn't like Armenians? You're like, nope, fuck you. No Armenians. Oh, wait, sorry. Hold on. You broke up. Hold on. Say that again.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Could you
It's
just
discretion to the.
Go ahead.
What's up? Where'd you go? It's discretion to like the gun salesman, right?
Discretion to the gun salesman. Okay.
Yeah. So like for me,
like I wouldn't sell anyone with
you,
blue hair a gun then if I was there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what you wanted to. Yeah. You just have to like make sure.
So discrimination. So discrimination's allowed in gun stores. I'm not against it, by the way, but it is allowed.
Dude, yeah, I fucking did it all the time.
Yeah. Like, listen, like 3 Filipinos come in with their pants sagging and you can't understand a word they're saying. You're like, sorry, you can't even pull your pants up.
Yeah, dude, I've like rejected gun sales just because you walked in weird into the store. I'm not gonna lie. Like
you smile and you have a grill. Sorry, no.
Like no, like people come in and they're just like shifty eyed, They just like come in.
Oh, like they're on meth or something. Yeah, like they're on meth.
And I'm like, hey, and I'll just call back to like the gun counter and be like, hey, this fucking dude tries to buy a gun, deny him. And if he asks why, just tell him no.
Discretion in a sense infringes on our rights though, because not just anyone can be a gun salesman. Oh, is that true? Not just was it hard to be a gun salesman?
I mean, you just pass a background check whenever I got through it.
Yeah,
you have to get like You have to go through like the FBI background check for yourself as well to be able to get access to submit background checks.
If you had a DUI or something like that, could you still sell guns? Something like that's not a violation? No, you couldn't. You got to be clean as a whistle.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow, what a cool job. Gun sales in Atlanta.
Yeah, dude, it was wild. Like you got I did get a bunch of people that come in, like a bunch of strippers will come in and they try to buy guns for their boyfriends, and you can like tell because they'll be like, I don't know what gun my boyfriend said I should get for my protection, but let me call him. And you can hear over the phone, he'll be like, oh yeah, just get that one. That one's a good one. And I look at it and I was like, that is a little bit too big for your hand, and it doesn't fit in your purse. It doesn't fit in your purse. You're a stripper. Like if you're trying to conceal carry, this is a 5-inch barrel. Where are you gonna fucking put this? Like it's not for you. It's for your boyfriend. So I would deny her about gun sales.
Hey, did you see the footage of the on Instagram of the Jersey cops shooting at the drones? And I thought it was real, and Caleb and the gang were making fun of me, saying it was a BB gun.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, okay. All right.
I sent you a link to some crazy article that came out in 22 about nuclear and drone shit, and that it was the next false flag for COVID. I sent you your text.
Oh, okay. I see that. Yeah, I see that.
But going back to like this whole government thing, dude, and like conspiracy shit, like so I went to this class when I was in the military up here in USAMRIID, which is like a research facility for chemical and like biological attacks. And I was a medic, so they teach you how to like treat that shit. But that's where they had like smallpox testing and like monkeys and shit in that research facility. I think it's by New Jersey. I can't remember. But we went in there and they showed us this fucking film in the 60s. They were testing smallpox out in San Francisco, in major cities. They would drop with like a plane. They would send in like, you know how they like crop dust, like in farms? Yeah. So they would use small planes like that and like release smallpox throughout the day to see how far it would like get people sick. And that's how they would prepare for like biological attacks. And like they did it in the 60s and like it's crazy.
And how did you know about that? Where did you get that information from?
I was in a chemical biological warfare school I went to.
And they told you that was part of the teaching.
Yeah, that's part of like the curriculum.
Isn't it weird? And people think like, oh, that shit just happened in the olden days. Oh, they put leeches on George Washington and bled him to death. Medicine's come so far, they would never do that today. It's like,
fuck that.
Wait a second.
Fuck that, dude. They found out that like between the hours of 5:30 p.m. and like 7:30 p.m. is the best time to fucking use like a chemical warfare for the biggest spread.
Wow.
Because like in San Francisco, it was like a 10-mile radius where people were infected and the hospitals were just kind of flooded.
Did you hear the lady calling yesterday where she talked about working for the water district in Texas in 2014, and they would do tests that, they would do drills on how quickly they could turn off the, electrical grid or the water treatment plants to stop the spread of, waterborne diseases. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. There's just a bunch of tests happening all the time and that the government does that people don't know about.
What's crazy is that I 100% believe Eli that he has no information on the drones. That's what's crazy, that the lawmakers that we're electing don't know. And to me, the deep swamp is all the people who are running this shit who we haven't elected.
Yeah, it is wild. I still haven't seen any of like the drone shit. It's been on my list to look at it, but it is fucking wild.
Dude, you heard Jethro called in yesterday. Him and his wife said that they had drones over their house 2 nights in a row, a shitload of them.
Yeah, that's fucking nuts. Like, how? I have a drone, and even like if I throw my drone up here in my neighborhood, like neighbors come out and they're like, "Yo, you can't have that drone up
right
out by my house.
Me too.
It's privacy." Like,
me too.
like, damn, chill out. Like, and my drone's like the mini one, so like you can't even see it.
I think that there's a drone that if you put it up and it's big enough, everyone will like. There's like a shut the fuck up drone. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
it's like if you're 6'4", 250 pounds, like people don't like bump into you at the bar. You know what I mean? There's a drone big enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if you have a drone with like a 20-foot diameter, your neighbors aren't saying shit to you.
It's just official and people just want to be.
Right. It's just like, oh fuck. It's like you
Just a-
report it to
just a
the
big-
news. Yeah.
Big dig drone. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have that big dig drone money.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for the insights into gun
All right,
sales.
dude.
Thank you.
All right, later, man.
Later. All right. All right, guys. Thank you. Okay, where were we? So 7 p.m. today. Kaylee will be coming on. We're gonna find a date for her. To go to, is it in Texas? Is it Austin? She's going to. She has front row tickets to the big Kill Tony show. And then the night before, she has tickets to like the mothership, and then the night after, something really cool. And she got Airbnb, and she got huge tits and a crazy body, and she wants to go with someone who will help her fun, not get in the way. A wingman, wing woman. Corey Leonard, sorry I'm late. Stupid work. God, the working class suck. Oh, you okay? All right. Here we go. I'm putting myself on the line with this one. Where is that? How do I check my messages? Oh, here we go. You sent me the drone. Matt Burns. You sent me the drone. Nope, I can't see it. It says this video can only be replayed once. Use the mobile app to view. Isn't that crazy? It's blocked on my computer. Thanks for sending it anyway. He was going to show the footage of the Jersey cops shooting at the drone that I thought was real, that everyone made fun of me for. Oh well. Anyway, thanks for trying. Okay, so tonight's show is going to be great. That was a fun show last week. If you missed it, that show where we find a date, basically what we do is you'll send a text to that call-in number down there, and then I'll send you a link, and then you can talk to Kaylee, and we can you guys can have a conversation. And then I think she's going to pick a winner tonight. And last I heard, Brianna and Heidi were in the lead, but I'm hearing rumblings that there may be a man now in the works. Jody Lynn, hurry up. People need to buy airline tickets. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right, Jody. This needs to be done. So tonight, 7 p.m., we'll get a post up on Instagram. Oh, I sent Caleb can you schedule a show for tonight, 7 p.m., going to Tony Hinchcliffe with Super Beaver? That's fair, right? Super Beaver. You'll probably need a post on Instagram about that too. Oh man, there's Heidi. She's in the running. My wife would love it if I won. I know. I vote for Jeremy too. Because if Jeremy goes and he comes back on and tells us the stories, it'll be great. That's really why. It'll be crazy. But maybe Kaylee will come back on. She's not really the kiss and tell type. But maybe she'll come back on afterwards and tell us like she gave Joe Rogan a hand job or something in the back. All right. Love you guys. See you guys tonight, 7 p.m. Appreciate y'all being here.